Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our live stream today here on Nikon Day, live at the B&H SuperStore in New York City. My name is Matt, and today we're going to be talking about the incredible Nikon ZR with our equally incredible panel guests here. We have Alli Forsythe and Mark Cruz. If you guys want to introduce yourself, Alli.
Yeah, my name's Alli Forsythe. I am a creative director and a creator, and happy to be here. Excited to talk about this camera.
Yeah, and my name is Mark Cruz. I'm a senior manager with Nikon USA. I'm a lover of all things photography, video, and film. So happy to be here to talk about the ZR.
Amazing. So we've got a lot to unpack with the ZR, as it kind of sent like a shockwave when it came out a few months back. So let's get started. So Mark, I'll take my first question to you. If someone was never heard of the ZR before, and they were like, what is this camera? What would your pitch to them on the ZR
Yeah,
be?
the elevator pitch is unique. I'll tell you, it's a one-of-one camera. It is the first real synergy between two companies, Nikon and Red. And it's really important because the way it's priced makes it available to a mass audience. Yeah. And it's unique because it represents a cinema-first camera in a small package that basically democratizes the special R3D NE. It's a red code raw codec to a broad audience, something that's really been isolated to higher end cinema cameras. But now you get all the benefits of Nikon know-how and technology, such as autofocus, stabilization, ergonomics, and just the overall workflow of the camera. Sure. So it appeals to so many different people, from mid-level creators to high-end content producers in film and cinema, as well as even live events this camera can do. So in a way, it's such a unique, groundbreaking camera because it can do so many things at such a high level at a low price to so many people.
Yeah, it truly is. Like, every time I've talked about it to someone, they've been blown away. Like, if they've got hands-on experience with it already, they've been blown away with how capable it is. And to that, Alli, you've been shooting with this a while, so you said before you've come from other cameras. So that first time you used the ZR, how was that experience for you?
I think the biggest thing for me is the first time I had that, I was like, I don't need another camera because I shoot such a broad range of types of content, from just daily social content that is very simple, quick to turn around, up to trying to plan a more high-end production or plan shoots or event coverage for clients that are a little more in-depth and a little more involved. And used to, I would load up my gear bag and have 3, sometimes 4 cameras in there to cover all the capabilities that I would need. Now I have 1.
Yeah, and so your last Nikon camera you had was a Z6 III, right?
Yes.
So that jump from how familiar were like the menus, for example, to going from there to the ZR? Like, how did you find that like kind of switch? Like, how, like, the UI of this camera when you were using it?
Like we were talking before, when I first put this camera in my hands, I was kind of taken aback at the menu, at the amount of buttons on the back of the camera, because it felt very minimal, and it was just within a couple hours that I was like, I really like this. It's not, I'm not moving my thumbs all over and turning my hand around and finagling my wrists and all, like, there's so many buttons on other cameras, and with this, just the few buttons is so intuitive and so easy to use and so quick to change any setting that I need very fast. That was like one of my first favorite things about this camera.
Yeah, it's amazing. And we'll now kind of jump into like the flagship kind of spec of that, the 12-bit R3D NE RAW capabilities. So what does that, I'll start with you, like, what does that kind of offer you when you're on those higher end productions? Like, what the flexibility that has? Like, how did that change your workflow, having that capability?
Well, previously I would look at the project and I would say, what do I need to do this the best that I can do this? And a lot of times I would start with what I had, and then I would look to what I would need. And now, oftentimes I would need, the bigger it got, the more and more gear that I would need. Now I look and I go, oh, I have everything I need in that camera for 95% of the things that I'm going to be shooting or that I have shot or that I'm working on currently. And I feel that with the Red Code RAW, especially the capability of editing all of that in Red software that's crazy. And a camera that small is crazy.
It's truly wild. And we have the Red Code RAW, but Mark, we also have NRAW and ProRes RAW in this camera. So three RAW capabilities in a camera this size. What was kind of, it just seems like a crazy thing to have in this kind of form factor. So how's that been perceived kind of by people when they've been testing out this camera?
Yeah, very uniquely, it transcends a broad range of audience. So the audience that we've found that have been tuning into our YouTube videos and the content that we're putting out there, and a lot of different YouTubers are putting out there, ranges from people in the film industry to content creators to people that are doing live events. And the reason, because is the several different codecs that we put in there. You mentioned RAW. So we, in our Nikon Z series cameras, have had RAW format in there for a few years now.
Yeah.
Now, this camera isn't part of the Z series, is not part of the Z series. This is part of the Z Cinema series.
Got you, okay.
So this is the first camera. Well, actually, it's the first real synergy from Nikon and Red, built from the ground up, that is part of this Z Cinema series. And so, back to your original question, what does that mean for people? It means that they can produce content and have a lot more flexibility for color grading. Further to that, what it means for people that are used to shooting in red code RAW on, say, something like a Komodo or even a Raptor, they can have a smaller footprint and still have a camera that fits into that workflow. It means that people that might not have a budget for those higher end cameras can still experience the quality of our 3D NE, that color space. We share the same IPP2 pipeline as Red. It's the same debayering filter, the same color science. And so when you bring it into suites like DaVinci and you start applying the LUTs from Red, it will be the same color science, the same application of those LUTs. Speaking of LUTs, if I can, this now is our first camera that has the ability to put those LUTs right into the camera and monitor it from that beautiful 4-inch screen. So you mentioned to me the elevator pitch, and in addition to it being a unique one of one, you know, the top features are, of course, the R3D NE codec, which you can do so much with, but also the fact that it has 32-bit float audio, which we'll get into later. This giant screen, which I gotta mention because it makes things compact for you. Just like Alli was saying, we don't really need, in most cases, a separate monitor. And further to that, the price point, which makes it accessible to so many people.
Yeah, you've actually brought me perfectly onto my next point. Like, I know that the Red Code RAW was like the flagship set, but my favorite thing about this camera is the screen. Like, when we got to shoot with it for the launch video, it was just incredible. Like, even in like broad daylight, it's 1,000 nit brightness. Yeah, just like blew me away of like how vivid and how good the image looked on the back of this camera. And Alli, in your launch video, you mentioned that you usually rig a monitor up.
Oh, well, I was going to jump in, but I didn't want to interrupt. Yeah, I had this camera rigged up, and I had a monitor, a 5-inch monitor on one, and I had a 7-inch monitor on the other, which is typically what I like to do.
Sure.
For the camera on the gimbal, I have a 5-inch monitor on the side. For the handheld, I'll have the 7-inch on top. And at first, when I started using it, I was looking at that monitor, and I would catch myself going back to the actual on-camera monitor, and then I'm thinking, the colors look better on the camera monitor. And there's photos and BTS video of me shooting the launch video for this camera, and you can see the actual rig, you can see the field monitor on top, and you can see me looking like this at the camera monitor. I thought it was so beautiful, and the screen it really is. It's 4 inches. Typically, on other cameras, 2.5, 3, or a little less than.
3 or 3.2, something like that. And
so that extra inch makes all the world of difference, to the point where you're like, I don't really need a field monitor. If I want to keep it stripped down, you have the visibility right there in that camera. Some of the guys we were shooting with was like, that's crazy.
And it really does make, just like we've got 2 cameras here rigged up, it's such a compact camera, so it enables you to get into places. It's similar in your film, you were in quite tight spaces. So it's so nice to have a camera like this that you can get into such tight spaces where it wouldn't be possible with a Komodo or a Raptor, for example, and you can still get that really high quality image.
Yeah, like I said, if you go back to that launch video, we filmed at the surf factory the first day, and then we were on the beach the next day. And if you watch the progression of the BTS, the camera gets less and less stripped down as we shot. I think by the end of the morning at the beach, I was just holding the camera, like there was nothing else on it.
I got to plug her video on NikonUSA.com because that's where her video is hosted on our YouTube channel. So you can check out that. It's 9 minutes, 44 seconds, and it's a great video. Yeah, I know it because I was the one that helped publish it. So, but it's a great video because it shows exactly what your process was when you were shooting it. I got to say about that screen, not only is it 4 inches, and that, like you said, that 1 inch makes a huge difference, but the difference between a 3-inch screen and a 4-inch screen is huge, and I'm seeing a lot of people that are creating content out there and saying, I don't actually need that 5-inch screen, separate monitor, 4 inch is good enough. Plus, it's got more resolution, it's got 3 million dots, and the other thing, you mentioned the brightness, but also the color space is a wider color space on this, so you can get a more accurate representation of your LUTs that you're viewing on there.
Amazing. We actually have a question. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and we'll try and answer them throughout. But we have a question. Is it compatible with monitors that have EI zone? EL zone? I forget. I can't.
I don't. I'm going to have to defer. I'm not exactly sure that specification.
We can find that out later and we can answer that in the comments later. But moving on to my next point is this is a cinema camera, but we do have a photo video switch. And it's very capable in stills as well. I personally think so. It's very similar sensor to the Z6 III. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's similar sensor to the Z6 III. So if you guys are looking at our portfolio of products, it's a partially stacked CMOS sensor. So that means it's a very little distortion out there. Sensitivity is about the same, but it's really customized, especially for this Cinema First model. But what it doesn't have is an mechanical shutter. So it's a purely electronic shutter. However, what's odd about this camera, odd in a good way, is that not only is it made cinema first, but we incorporated virtually every aspect of the photo stills capability of a Z6 III. So when you see the photo menu, you get time-lapse video, you get all these nuanced features for stills, shoot raw, 24 megapixels in there, and you still get the 6K video on that, but you got all the capabilities of both. So a lot of people are blown away by the fact that it's a fully blown stills camera with a hot shoe on top as well.
And what's the maximum burst rate on this in photo mode?
Yeah, I think this one is at maximum burst rate, we can achieve up to 120 frames per second.
In JPEG?
In JPEG, yeah.
Okay, amazing.
And I'll speak to the photo side of it too from, a simple content, like production side of things. Where, if you're looking to use this from everything from as simple as it can be up to a more cinema first production, I can take this out, put it on a tripod by itself, shoot my content, super high quality, also then take it off, shoot photos to get my thumbnails, or if I wanted to incorporate, kind of a mixed media into my content, it allows you to do that without having to have two camera bodies, which in the past I had to do. And I believe YouTube just increased the resolution allowed for the thumbnails to be more higher quality for television, which I think is really cool because now you can have not only an extremely high quality camera, but you only need one body to go out and get high resolution photo for thumbnails or anything else that you want to incorporate into the content you're making. Yeah,
it's really just such a capable camera. And like you said before, it opens it up to so many people at the price point that it's at. But let's talk about the Nikon glass as well. Now that we're Z-mount, native Z-mount, we have here the 24-70 S Mark II. This is the internal zoom, first in the world, I believe, right?
I beg pardon?
The first in the world internal zoom 24-70.
Yes.
So
correct.
When we were shooting with this for our launch video, we mounted this on a gimbal, and it's so lightweight and compact, and the quality that the Nikon glass always is amazing. So having that Z-mount on a cinema camera just opens up so many possibilities for yourself. How have you found using that glass out in the field?
That glass is the reason that I wanted to shift to Nikon in the first place. I'm obsessed with the glass. I think it's beautiful. I think it creates such depth in the image. Like, you look at it, and obviously the sensor makes a difference, the camera makes a difference, but the glass is so beautiful. Like, when you look at the image, it looks like you're looking at a real image, not a digital image. And I really believe that there's just like, I've never figured out a better way to describe this, but I just feel like there's more meat to the image.
Yeah, and what's your favorite lens, if I had to push you?
14 to 24.
14 to 24.
And
nice.
the 85.
The 85, yeah. Mine was the Planner. I fell in love with that lens on the shoot. A phenomenal lens. And I've got to ask you, Mark, what's your favorite lens then?
I think the Plena as well, yeah.
It's just, and the way that you're able to like mount this on a gimbal, like I said, this one specifically, the 24 to 70, was just so nice, especially for wedding shooters. You can have that on a gimbal all day, shoot 8 hours, and you won't be exhausted at the end of the day. It's just such a lightweight and compact setup. This was like my go-to setup for that shoot. I absolutely loved it.
You know, one good turn deserves another, because I plugged our YouTube channel. I'm going to plug yours now, and the B&H channel has a really good presentation of the ZR with Matt, actually, because you did it in 2 parts. You showed how it can be used in a high-end cinema production, and then we talked about how it can be used in a more run-and-gun production. So we have a lot of maybe people that are doing wedding videography out there, and you talked about using it on a gimbal. It's a very small and light. It's lighter than a Z6 III. It doesn't have the viewfinder, but it has that screen that comes out. And because of the stabilization on it, you can do handheld run and gun. You can put it on a gimbal and rely wholly on the full-time autofocus of this. Something that cinema cameras, higher-end cinema cameras tend to struggle with is that not only the continuous full-time autofocusing, but the nature of the subject detection, the stabilization is usually not as good on higher-end cinema cameras, because this is, kind of built with the DNA of our mirrorless Z cameras, but now in this new section called Z Cinema, you get the best of both worlds. So you get the meat, as you say, of the beauty of the image, of the codec, but you also benefit from the glass. So opening it up to new people means opening up also to more glass with the Z mount. So we introduced that when we refined and modified the red box cameras to have the Z mount. Now this is going to be available to the Z mount, as well as other cinema lenses out there. Light's Hector series just developed an exclusive Z mount series that's going to be capable with this as well. So you have that out on the market. And I'll say this as well, Nikon has also teased that we're in development of our own dedicated cinema lenses. More to say about that in the future. I can't say too much now on the live stream, but I can hint at it.
That's really exciting. I'm very, very curious to see what you guys do with that.
Can I speak to the 24 to 70 real fast?
Absolutely,
because I have to say, the 24 to 70 is usually my least favorite lens. And that was my first time seeing the Mark II today. And I picked it up and I was like, this is nice.
Why?
Because of the weight and the size.
There you go.
Always.
Yeah.
Well, we are in the B&H SuperStore, so you can go up
Lovely.
afterwards. So you mentioned there the autofocus and the image stabilization of that. And for me, when I've been shooting cameras in the past, I rarely have the autofocus on whole area. I kind of make either a zone or a point, because I don't trust that it's going to catch the subject that I want. But with this, I was in whole area the whole time, and it never let me down. And I feel like you had a similar experience on your film that you did. You mentioned a lot how good the autofocus was. So can you speak more about your experience with the autofocus?
Yeah, well, yeah, I'll speak to 2 sides of it. So when I shoot my social content, typically it's on a tripod. It's just a little above my face. I point it down just a hair, and I flip the camera around and look. The only way that I ever know that I'm in focus is the 2 boxes around my eyes, and that never misses.
Yeah.
It's never missed.
It's magical.
And and also just again about the 4-inch screen. It's another thing. It's so easy to see. But then when I was shooting the launch video, there was a point when we got kind of creative towards the end of the day and shut off all the lights. We had one panel light pointing at the wall, so it was quite dark in there. And you can see in the BTS portion of that video where I have the camera over, what the subject was doing, and you can just watch the autofocus. I tapped the screen on her hand because at that point I just wanted to rely on the touch focus, and it hung on, and everything around her was pitch black.
So impressive. And also, as well as the autofocus, the image stabilization blew me away. It's 7 stops.
It's a little bit more closer to 8, I think.
8,
yeah.
wow.
So, but like you said, I think worlds are colliding at this point, because in the photo world, we're so used to all that. We're so used to subject detection and autofocus and having it being real fast. Typically, in the cinema world, you have dedicated pull focusers, and even the cinema guys in our office, they usually don't rely on autofocus at all, always manual focusing it, but that changes the way you shoot. So have dedicated and reliable and accurate autofocus, which, by the way, you can adjust the delays of the autofocus, the speed of the autofocus in camera, how quickly and how slowly it pulls for a more cinematic effect in the camera. This changes the way you shoot, and it'll open up more ways that you can use the camera that typically in traditional cinematography, you establish your shot, in a certain plane of focus. You plan out the way things. You can be more reactive now when you have good autofocus.
And yeah, so like you said, you can change the speed of the autofocus. So if you are, for example, a wedding shooter, you're out running and you can still get those like nice dramatic focus pulls, and it's almost as if you have like a whole crew there, but it's just you tapping away.
Right.
It's such a nice feature to have.
Yeah, it's great, especially when you're talking about documentary or verite style filmmaking, where you want to be as least intrusive as possible and as minimal assuming as possible. So that's what a camera like this brings to you, but you don't have to sacrifice on the color science and the LUTs you have to use. You can still incorporate that into an R3D workflow.
That's amazing. And like you said before, throughout your time shooting with it in your film, the rig was getting slowly stripped back. So when it was at its most bare bones, how did you find the image stabilization when you were shooting in just essentially, was it essentially this rig that you have here?
Correct, yeah.
So how did you find that shooting purely handheld, and were you still able to get like the shots that you desired, like the...
There was a very, it was obvious that the micro jitters were mostly out of it. Obviously you can tell it's handheld, but it wasn't, it's like not going to make you nauseous watching it. It was very, I think on a couple of clips, I did use a stabilizer in post, but just with one round of stabilization, it looked like it was on a gimbal.
Yeah, and that's incredible that you have that, because then I find, especially when you're trying to do something, you're on a shoot and you might not have a lot of time, rigging up a gimbal can take a bit of time sometimes. So being able to have that flexibility of shooting purely handheld and still getting the results that you want, even if you have to fix it a little bit in post, is just, it's so important. It is a little bit of a game changer for people that are out in the field. But also, we mentioned before how it had few little buttons. When you're out in the field, you need to change settings on the fly. How did the UI of the camera, because it said so minimal, you said it took a few hours to get used to it. Do you now not want to go back from that minimalistic UI?
I really like it's one button, you punch into that and you have access to everything you need, and it's one button in the joystick, and then you have a few hotkeys if you want to change things to make it more custom. That's one of the things I love the most about Nikon, is how customizable the whole camera is. But speaking specifically to the ZR and the buttons on the back, you're going between two buttons, and once you learn the menu and the interface, it's so convenient. You're not searching for a button, and also in situations where I'm shooting content and I just want to make a quick change, I need to find one button. Whereas before, if I'm reaching behind the camera, if the camera's pointing at me, I'm reaching around there. And because let's face it, anybody who shoots content on a tripod and films themselves, at some point or another, you're going to reach around the back to try and change a setting. With that, it's one button. You're not searching for, is it the play button? Is it the menu button? Is it the info button? Is it the center button? Is it, it's one button and a joystick. And
it just streamlines your whole process, doesn't it? Excuse me, sorry. And yeah, I was just going to say, I've lost my space now, but we'll move on because I've forgotten my point. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the 32-bit float in this camera. So all of the audio ports on this camera have 32-bit float, which is incredible. So, Mark, you just kind of explain what that means. And
essentially, let's think about sound as a dynamic range. So, you can have 16-bit, you can have 24-bit, which most cameras do right now. And that's basically the range where you can record sound. Now, what happens when you record sound beyond the capabilities of the microphone to receive it? with the specified input level, is you'll experience clipping, and in live events that you do, this can be a problem when you can't predict where the sound's going to be, and if you have bad sound, that usually negates the clip and the footage. So oftentimes you need really good sound. What 32-bit, and the keyword here is float, can do is that it has this variable nature to it that has a broader dynamic range that you can push and pull. So actually, you know what? Alli, you should talk about this because you have a good anecdote that you just told me the other day.
I told it. Yeah, it's the story I was telling these guys before. So one of my good friends here that I'm staying with, she is a sound engineer, and she's mixed for Super Bowl commercials, huge brands, and she's used to working. She's used to getting the media from a full-blown, big-budget production, taking that in. And we had a conversation last night because I'm doing the presentation this afternoon. And I was like, let me walk you through this because she's not a camera girl. She knows everything about audio. And so I was walking her through it, and I got to the sound part. And she was like, can you explain this to me a little bit more? And I was like, sure. And I've always appreciated 32-bit float because I've always I have great audio and I never really lose anything. But I also am very careful with my lav mics, and I check the levels pretty frequently. But I had a situation where I was with, I was on a job last week, and it was a convention with over 300 people, and the videographers were shooting most of the B-roll content, event coverage, everything like that. And then I was popping out to get interview sound bites. Well, it was an entire group of people who are not media trained. You kind of have to sneak up on them to get that really authentic answer or they get camera shy or anything. And so I was just looking for the right moment to sneak in. And I only realized this in hindsight. I never checked my level because I was so hyper-focused on getting such an authentic soundbite from them. And so I got it. We're in a conference room with 250 people talking. Everybody's communicating. It's super loud. It's super echoey. And I had the camera exactly like this, same microphone and everything, Sennheiser. And I would walk up and I would say, how's your experience going? That's it. Never looked at the sound. I just wanted to look at them, keep eye contact, because a lot of these people don't like to be on camera. So I took it back in to edit it, turn it around. I drop it into Vinci, and the waveform was completely clipped. It was just a white block of audio. And
how high did your blood pressure go up at that point?
I was, in the back of my mind, I was like, either I can fix it or I feel like I have somebody who can hopefully fix it. Keyword being hopefully. Yeah. I was like, let me edit and put it. So I work back and forth between Premiere and Resolve. In Resolve, when you put it in, I think it kind of adjusts the sound for you because it sounded okay right there. When I exported it, it was like, I don't even want to make the noise because I feel like I'm blow people's ears out at home, but it was like, you could barely hear what the person was saying. It was so loud, and I was like, that was when my blood pressure went up because I was like, oh no, let me go back and look. So I went back in to the editor, and I was like, all right, let me see what I can do. So I started to pull the volume down, and I was like, wait, the waveforms are still there. Just pulled them down a little more. I was like, okay. I got down to, I think, negative 20 dB, 22 dB, and I was like, okay, that looks good. I was like, it's not clipping anymore. But typically, in any other scenario, you're like, okay, it's not clipping. Great, I brought the volume down, but the audio is still going to sound horrible because you don't retain that information once it's clipped. I exported it. It was like I had sent it off to someone to completely be properly mixed and EQ'd. All of the audio was there. The vocals came through beautifully, clear. All of the levels were there. I like just a touch of EQ to bring out the bass a little bit more, and it was perfectly balanced and mixed. So going back to my friend that I was talking about, I walked her through last night with this, and it took me about 5 minutes to show her how it was messed up, sounded horrible, brought it back in, brought the levels down, exported it. It was beautiful. And she was like, that just did my job for me. Because, typically audio mixers would have to go in and clean up poor audio from if it's not exposed properly. And for a run and gun situation or event coverage or even just creators who you see a moment, you hit record, and you're like, oh, in the past you'd be like, I just missed that moment because the audio is the most important part, and you no longer have it because it looks great, but there's no sound. And so to be able to completely mess that up and be able to recover it in post is insane. And through I'll let you speak to the specs because I don't know them down to the degree like you do, but you can put a hot shoe or use the hot shoe through just a shotgun mic or a transmitter or anything like that, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I'll speak to that. So, I mean, in Alli's case, it was an honest mistake. You know, she didn't check the levels, but I think and also in other cases where you just have a spike, you know, you might be at a wedding and you're trying to get a voice from the people doing speeches, but maybe there's background music that just pops or something like that. You can salvage that. In terms of how the 32-bit float audio is derived, you can either do it through third-party microphones using the 3.5 millimeter jack. You can do it through the internal microphone of the camera, but as well as, I don't have it here, but we have also first time an electronic hot shoe where we have our own MED10 microphone, shotgun microphone, which we can do that through. So 32-bit float is available for the first time through this 32 millimeter jack. But as well as the first camera to really do it, to achieve 32-bit float, you'd really have to get a dedicated Zoom audio recorder normally. But this is the first camera that really has it internally with 3.5 millimeter jack as well.
That's really cool. And like you said, like if you're in those events where there is a spike, you can able to recover that.
Yeah.
Is fantastic. And then you don't have to worry about your audio as much. Like still try and set your levels, but like in cases where you want to get that authentic reaction, you don't have time. To be able to get that and be like, that's a usable clip, it's so impressive. It
so you
really
see the
is.
diversity of the application.
Absolutely,
you know, like
yeah.
This is part of the Z Cinema series, but it could be like the Z Live Events series as well.
I think a lot of people forget how important audio is, especially, and I kind of want to speak to the more beginner side of things because that's a lot of the content I create is like really trying to make more professional video accessible to other people because of these cameras like this and features like this. It's not as complicated or intensive as it used to be. And audio is such an important part that I think people are so focused on the visuals that they forget how important audio is. And what I love about this is that even if someone is just learning how to use a camera and they don't know what they're doing, they can still get fantastic audio out of this camera. And it's one less thing that they have to dive in to learn about, that you kind of jump over that learning curve a little bit of needing to understand, you know, over time, like obviously you want to educate yourself, but I just think it's so cool. And then for someone like me who does stuff like this all of the time, it's, you know, if I make an honest mistake or, you know, I don't totally lose everything that I've just shot.
Yeah. And to your point of it being for someone, it could be someone's first cinema camera because the price of entry is fantastic. You can still get great results straight out of camera if the thought of shooting in RAW is very intimidating. We have picture profiles in here, right? Or I forget the specific
picture
name.
controls.
Picture control, that was it.
We call it on our cloud recipes. But I will talk about that because, you know, it's funny that you mentioned people that are more entry level. There's still an auto mode on this camera, to tell you the truth, that will control a lot of your exposure settings. So people can really pick it up and start running and gunning and shooting. We talk a lot about RAW as being kind of the key feature of this, but this still has very capable H.264, H.265, 8-bit, 10-bit options, a lot of different options in here that you can shoot with a smaller footprint in terms of the file size, experience a lot of the benefits of built-in picture controls as to what you were saying. So those are things that, for instance, for people that are familiar with LUTs, you know, these customized cube files that you can adjust the color gamut with and settings, and that usually takes a certain level of expertise. You got to apply it in the editing suite afterwards. And people, a lot of times when they're just starting, don't have the expertise to be able to color grade. We have internal picture profiles that we call picture controls in here. And in the very near future, we're going to be coming out with 9 RED developed picture controls that you can import into here through our cloud service that will emulate actual RED LUTs that are out
really
there,
cool.
but you can use on lighter file types like H.265. And then you can record it to that and still experience that RED kind of cinematic look with 9 different stylized picture controls.
That's awesome. And as well, like you were saying before, if you've got a piece of content that you need a quick turnaround on, if you need something very quickly, having those picture controls, you can get an incredible look straight out of camera, so the turnaround can be even faster because you don't have to worry about color correction and stuff like that.
You can even apply it to the stills as well.
That's really cool.
With those picture controls, so that's pretty cool.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I actually remembered what I was going to say. I know I said my favorite thing about this camera was the screen, but my actual, my nerdiest appreciation of this camera is we were using manual lenses in our video at one point for our sit-down interview, and the zoom rocker to punch in to get focus. I just love that little, you could punch in, I don't know how many times, but we were on someone's face on an 85mm, and it was just right on their eye. The whole screen was their eye, and I was just being able to do this, punch in quickly, check focus, punch back out. That's my favorite feature, I have to say.
That's something we paid a lot of attention, Matt, when we developed the product, is the workflow and the aids on this. This has peaking. This has zebra patterns. You can customize the threshold of the zebra patterns. Not only that, but we also have waveforms on here, including the histograms. So there's a lot of monitoring tools that can help you be a one-man band or one-woman band, or whatever you want to say, when operating this. And yeah, it just speaks to the overall unusual workflow that is quick, easy, in the moment, and with a smaller operation. Yeah.
Awesome. And we talked about it being great for beginners, but also it's very, very capable, like we said throughout this, on the other side. So in your shoot, you matched it with you were shooting also with a Komodo, correct? Mm-hmm. So how was that, after the fact, matching the ZR footage to the Komodo footage? How did you find that process in the editing suite?
They're very similar files. I did not shoot on the Komodo. The Komodo footage was from the water.
Yes.
So, but they, in my opinion, getting them to start with a clean plate to actually color grade them, very simple.
That's really cool.
And I can speak to that a little bit too, Matt. You know, the same pipeline as the traditional R3D red code raw files, it'll give editors a really, really easy base to mix in this with other footage from, say, a Komodo. Not only that, but the dynamic range of the R3D NE files here exceeds 15 stops. So you get a broad dynamic range for editors to use this in their suite. Broader than any of the other RAW files that we've introduced in the past with our Z cameras. So that's one of the best reasons to get a ZR, is using that R3D format. We have a much broader dynamic range, in addition to using the red LUTs out there. I mean, one of the great things you can do right now, if you have a ZR, is you go on Red's website and you can download close to 50 different LUTs off of their website, save it onto your CF Express Type B card, and import it right into the camera so that you can monitor it on that beautiful 4-inch screen and see exactly what you're going to be recording on. You know, it's not just using the view assist, but actually seeing the LUT on the monitor itself. So what you see is what you get in the camera and into the editing suite. It really speeds up the workflow of your overall timeline.
That's really awesome. And we haven't mentioned it yet, but we have to mention it because it looks fantastic. The SmallRig Cage is on here with the ZR. So this is specifically for the ZR. And it just adds that little bit of extra grip on there as well. So if someone needs to rig out a little bit, this is like a very, very compact kind of setup. But just the ergonomics of both this grip and the external grip here.
Yeah, it's not an accident that I put this here on your live stream. Yes, we are talking about having it very easy, small rig setup. Like this is Alli's camera right here, just minimalist with the microphone. I set it up with the SmallRig. For those viewers out there that are watching in the city today is Nikon Day at B&H. So we have tables out here showcasing the Red, and we've partnered up with SmallRig. They are here as well as SanDisk. We have tables over there you can come see. But when we came out with this camera, we developed it specifically with with SmallRig, so that they have customized cages on here. What we're featuring has 3 touch points on the camera, so it's locked in tight. I know there was some chatter online that At the bottom, there's really only one screw point. People are used to 2, but when you put this red cage on, you actually have 3 contact points, and it's rock solid. It's as if it's part of the body itself. You have easy access to the bottom of the camera's battery and memory card compartment. You have accessories with a NATO rail that you can put handles on this, and so on and so forth. So it's really solid, and if you want to rig it up, you can rig it up. You can put a V-mount battery at the back. You can put external monitors if you want, with the HDMI cable, so on and so forth. Yeah.
Awesome. And you mentioned the battery there. I can't remember if we've touched on this or not, but when I first heard about this camera, I was thinking, what's the catch? Like, where's it going to be? And I was like, oh, it must be battery life shooting in RAW in a body this size. But I was so pleasantly surprised with how good the battery life is. We were shooting all day in Red Code RAW 6K, I think from early morning all the way to, I think it was like 6, 7 p.m. We swapped the battery twice in this camera, and it was a hot day as well. So like we were really putting it through its paces. So I don't know how you guys did it, but it's like such a pleasant surprise to see that you, and these are the same batteries as the
ZR.
Z63.
Z63,
Yeah, it's the NEL15. Yeah, so I mean, let's talk about the catches. What's the catch? Where's the fan on it? Because there is no fan. That's one of the beauties about this camera, is that we intentionally made it with heat dissipation such that we didn't actually need a fan. This is rated to shoot, depending on the file type and the codec and the frame rate used, we can get up to 2 hours of recording time, and that includes shooting on R3D 6K 30p. We can get over 2 hours of recording on this at, I think, about 24 degrees Celsius. But in addition to that, the heat dissipation, what that means, without a fan, we can record with the camera's built-in microphone and not record that sound of a fan. So in situations where you are doing run and gun type and you are reliant on the audio at that point, sometimes it's kind of disqualified when you get that fan hissing and so on and so forth. This doesn't have that. So we really were looking to develop a product that could capture not only the kind of quality of images that it does, but the kind of quality sound. And so we talked about the 32-bit float audio. That would be ruined if we had a built-in fan in there. So by the fact that we don't have one, can really clean up that audio. So you're looking at a one-of-one product here. It's really unique that it has all these features and that you can have clean 32-bit audio but still be fanless and have a clean audio sound.
Awesome. And how did you find that did you have similar experience to me?
I was going to speak to the battery.
Yeah.
We started in the morning and went until 6:37 in the evening, and I think I changed the battery 3 times. And on day 2, when we were out at the beach, it was a little cooler in the morning, but the sun came out by like 11:30. And we were shooting, I want to say 6 hours in direct sunlight. I left with a sunburn that day. And 0 overheating issues. Yeah. Not once.
Yeah, we were out in like 75 to 80 degree heat, and it was absolutely, it didn't overheat, no problem, shooting in the highest frame rates possible.
And you can see, again, too, in the BTS portion of the video, during the interview, I think our interview lasted about an hour, hour and a half, and I just had it rolling the entire time, both cameras on the subject, and the sun was directly on the cameras. So
yeah, and it didn't overheat. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a little cheat on the camera too, so you can actually extend the heat ceiling to be a little bit higher, so you can get maybe an extra half an hour of recording time on it. So there is a heat monitor on it, but you can press it to go on a high level so that you can keep recording a little bit more before the heat cutoff kicks in.
Amazing. And we have a couple of questions here from the chat. So the first one I have, this might be for yourself, Mark. So it's, can the still image be applied for N-Log so that the color correction of time lapses is much easier to match the N-Log video?
No, it doesn't. Good question. It doesn't. The stills doesn't utilize the N-Log, but as I said, we do have some picture controls that emulate the red LUTs. So we're going to be debuting 9 of them, 9 cine types of red LUTs on our cloud Nikon imaging space, our cloud space, which you can connect to the ZR and download it right to there. So in answer to his question, if you were shooting log on the camera and wanted to kind of match it to, I think you said a time lapse, the best thing might be to consider using the red picture controls on that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably my best advice.
Awesome. And we have another one. Is there any way customized LUTs can be imported to the ZR?
Yes.
Great question. Yes, so you can actually create your own LUTs, save it on a CF Express card, and bring it into the camera, and then preview it on the camera. Sorry, you were going to say as well?
No, that's what I did for my shoot.
That's what you did for yours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she made her own LUT, and she can preview it on the camera.
That's awesome. So then your workflow, like you knew exactly what the image was.
They're already
like.
in my editing software, and I exported those out for for Red Code Raw, and I brought it right on in. And
I'll mention for clarity, though, that is a feature that is only available for R3D-NE. So if you're shooting the other RAW file types, whether it be ProRes RAW or NRAW, it's not available for that. So it is only available for R3D-NE to preview the LUTs in camera at this point in time.
Okay, cool. We have a few people have asked about future firmware updates, but I know we can't really speculate on that right now.
I'll give you a little.
Oh.
I'll give you a little something as my boss is looking at me right here. So what can I say, Mark? What we are saying is we're going on record saying that a new version of the ProRes will be available in the future, LT. We're not saying exactly when, but sometime in 2026.
That's really exciting. That's awesome. So, I mean, this has been one of the most exciting releases I've had part of in B&H. I really loved shooting with this camera, and it's really exciting to see that this is. I know we had the Z-mount Komodos and Raptors, but this is like the first true Nikon and Red camera partnership. So it's really exciting to see where you guys are going to go for that. And I know for creatives like yourself, you must be excited to see what's potentially coming out in the future.
oh yeah.
And it might not be good for our wallets, but it'll be good for our creativity. Is what I'd say.
Well, I'll tell you, I think it will be good for your wallets because today at B&H we have, for today only, 0% financing for 24 months with a Paybu card. And so if you come down today to the store, it's today only. We have Nikon Day for select eligible products, including the ZR that you can get 0% financing for 24 months.
$720 and up, right?
Correct. Yeah. You have to spend at least $720 and up.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let's make sure. Oh, we have. Yeah, someone's asking about the photo quality. So it's 24 megapixels. On
yes, this is a 24.5 megapixel sensor, which equates to 6K raw files in the video. But yes, you can shoot in. It's phenomenal. You can shoot in RAW, JPEG, in camera with the ZR.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, guys, for joining me today. It's been a real pleasure, and thank you guys for watching. If you have. We'll see any more questions coming in. No, we're all good. Well, thank you so much for watching. It's been a pleasure talking to you guys about the Nikon ZR. I hope you had fun, and we'll see you guys next time.